Coming back for more?
Oh, dude. Glutton for punishment. Let's do this.
Oh, no punishment here. Last week, we talked about nighttime routines.
Yes.
And it was so exciting that we're going to talk about morning routines.
Morning routines.
This week.
Yes.
Because nighttime
leads to the morning.
In
an ideal world.
And the second biggest battle in the house is the morning, whereas the nighttime is that's
a good
number
question.
one.
So you think the nighttime is
in my house?
In your house is more difficult. I was going to say worse, but it's not the great word to put. More difficult than the daytime routine. Why do you think that is?
Nighttime is difficult because you're tired.
Gotcha.
That's one of there's other factors, but you're tired.
Yeah.
I think the morning routine is more stressful because you have to get somewhere.
Right.
So there's a time, there's a real time component.
Right. Well, because of school and
I mean, the nighttime is like, oh, it just sucks if they go past that time. But nothing happens. Nobody gets in trouble. You don't get a tardy. You're not late for work or a meeting. There's no ramifications of that per se, other than just lack of sleep and you not getting to do what you wanted to do.
Right.
The morning routine is real. The struggle is real.
Yes. But it's under a finite time period, generally speaking.
What do you mean?
Meaning that you have a deadline time to get to in the morning routine.
Correct. That's all you got.
Yeah, that's all you got.
That's all you got. So if we're going to establish a routine, we're going to do very similar to what we did with the nighttime routine, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit.
Okay. All right.
I've been watching too many vlogs because that's totally that was something from a vlog.
Well, they make their...
they do the transition. Oh goodness. I'm watching it for research as I do my stuff now. I'm starting to do a lot of videos, but I'm not doing vlogs. I'm doing like instructional, helpful videos per se. So it's kind of funny, but, so going back, the morning routine it really comes into play when your child starts, I would say, kindergarten. Okay. Preschool's often every other day or once in a while, whatever. And the child still really doesn't get it so much. Uh-huh. Nighttime routines, as we were talking, the routine is important and you can establish a routine like, hey, we brush teeth. Hey, we take a shower, whatever, or take a bath. But the child isn't necessarily looking at the clock. Mm-hmm. They're not when they're really young. So it's hard, for nighttime, it makes sense when they start to understand the time. That's when you can put up a schedule, somewhat similar in the morning routine. And because if you're going to have a schedule, they have to understand what it is. But that's why I also my children, when I put up the schedule, they were learning the numbers and the time and they loved doing that. My daughter at the time couldn't read though. She didn't know breakfast.
Right.
She didn't know that. So I put pictures.
Yeah.
I put breakfast and then I put a picture of a bowl of cereal. And it was like, oh, that's breakfast. So she learned the words too.
It's like a McDonald's menu.
I mean, and so that helped, putting the picture with the word and so that they understood what it was. She could say breakfast and she knew it, but she just didn't know how to read it, and so I think it kind of starts around kindergarten. You can gauge it with your kids. There's no, you can put it up early and it just won't work,
right.
It's not going to work as well. But when you need to get that child out of the house at a certain time, it's stressful. Sure. And it can be stressful. So here's what we do. We're going to go over some steps of how you can establish that morning routine and what you do. And then I also have some advice that goes along with it.
Great.
So the first one, and if you listen to our previous podcast, some of it'll sound familiar. So I don't have to say, as we said in the previous podcast. Right. Yeah,
just go to 1 to 51 and that's
correct.
Pretty much, it's very
First step, take inventory. So you're going to write down all of the things that you need your child to do before you need to leave the house.
Okay.
So that could be eat breakfast, get dressed, brush your teeth, prepare your backpack, lunch, whatever it is, write all that stuff down.
Sure.
Put the stuff in order.
Yep.
So you got to put it all in order. You got to say,
from the moment you wake up.
Yes. From the moment they wake up till the moment you in the car. If that's how they're, if they're getting in the car or they need to be there for the bus or a friend's picking them up, whatever, if they need to walk, if they need to ride a bike, however they're getting to school and leave the house.
Yes.
That's what time they need to leave the house. So you take that inventory, you write it down, make the list, then put the list in order. You establish step number 2, you establish what time do they need to leave the house. And I know this might sound like, well, of course that's what you do, but it helps to have it all mapped out so that somebody can just follow along, because us guys like to have things spelled out. We don't like instructions, but we like things spelled out. That's a better way of looking at it.
Sure, I like that.
Like detail. So you establish the time you need to leave the house and be realistic. Allocate some time for traffic, mistakes, whatever.
Yeah.
You're going to add some extra little buffer in there.
Yeah, you got to put a cushion in there.
You don't want to leave it down to the wire. You don't want to be the person that's like dragging your kid into the front of the school. Hey, trust me. You see it all the time. I mean, the same people like running in late. It's almost not, well, it's kind of funny, but so
slightly sad
side note. So, and this actually helps. So my kids, in the mornings, I think I talked about, they do what's called the running club. And so they actually go before school and do laps, and this is their choice, you know, and it's really good for the kids. And there's a bunch of kids that participate. One of the things I love about it is it gets us there on time.
Yeah.
Because we have to, we may not get to the running on time, but we're definitely there way before school starts.
Sure.
So it's not as much of a stress, because it's like we're not going to be in trouble if we're late or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm there, or my wife is there, less now than we were as they get a little bit older, and we can, slow down to 10 miles an hour and drop them off. But for the longest time, we were there in the morning and watching, and then we would, as the bell rings, you say your goodbyes and you walk out, because you actually the parents are allowed on campus at the school.
Right.
Many schools they're not, or whatever. But the parents are allowed to be there and watch and everything. And the same parents. So the bell rings. I see there's a couple, 2 or 3 that I know because they're in the class or whatever. Same parents every time, running in before the thing's closing, because they close it and you have to go through the office, whatever. I mean, without a doubt, the same people. And so it's just funny because it's not the kid's fault.
Right.
It's the parents' fault.
Yeah.
If your kid is late, it's the parent's fault, not the kid's fault.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's just, that was kind of a side note, but it is funny because you see and
same people,
and you can see the lateness of the kid and the parent, and you just get it. It totally makes sense.
Yeah. I know I'm going to have to do this military training to get myself out of that routine of just procrastinating.
I know. I mean,
but I like the idea. Actually, this is cool that you mentioned that if there's some activity you can do that's either close to the school or at the school, perfect. Then it's you don't have to be late.
It's a half-hour buffer. For us.
Yeah.
We don't get to the running on time.
Right. But we're still there
definitely
before school on time.
Right. So it works.
That's great.
So you establish what time you need to, leave the house. That was step number 2. Step number 3, you work backwards with realistic time slots.
Sure.
So as an example, if you need to leave the house at 7:30, they have to have their backpack ready by 7:25. They need to have their hair and brush their teeth by 7:20. If you live where we live, you have to have your sunblock on. It's so funny when we were putting that as part of the routine.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was never a part of my routine.
No. But it is part of the routine. I know it's kind of funny, but actually it should be wherever, but our kids, they're outside a lot. So some schools are indoors, especially if you're in a cold environment.
Yes. I grew up it was funny because I talked to California natives and they're like, that's weird to have your school inside of a building.
Totally.
And I'm like, what are you talking about?
We had to walk outside in between classes or whatever.
And that's not, all hallways were hallways inside of it and closed one big structure that we are all a part of. The only part that was outside is maybe the gym, you had to walk outside, or anything out,
that's
the
so
playground.
Funny.
That's it.
Yeah, all my elementary, middle, high school, all of them are outside.
Because you grew up here, right?
Yeah.
It's the opposite for me. It's so funny.
So you work backwards and understanding the time slots and giving yourself enough time for anything. So as you work backwards, you then establish your wake up time, which is step number 4. So kind of how we did with the nighttime.
Yep.
Establishing dinner.
Yeah.
Based on what time we need to go to sleep.
Sure.
You establish your wake up time.
And that's what I would imagine in turn establishes your breakfast time.
It establishes everything. Yeah. And so you can establish, do you want to have them or do they prefer to eat? Like my kids before, this was when they first started doing it, were getting dressed before they came downstairs, and then they ate breakfast.
Okay.
Now they like to eat breakfast and then get dressed afterwards, which is actually better because you don't get a bunch of food on the clothes. But you don't realize when they're little, they spill a lot more.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they got dressed, clean clothes, and then they're getting, they're eating cereal and milk is dribbling down their shirt. First world problems. So step number 4, you establish the wake up time. This is a crucial step as it becomes the foundation for the schedule.
Sure.
So if your kids are going to bed early, here's another thing. If they go to bed early and they like to do something fun prior to school. So let's say they want to play a game or they like to, I've even seen like a neighbor kid was riding a skateboard at 7:20 in the morning or whatever. Then you can incorporate that into the schedule. Give it the time and say, hey, if you get all these things done, then you have an extra whatever time to be able to do that. That's fine. But just, bake that in other than them going and doing their thing and then them rushing to get whatever they need to get done.
Right.
So then you've established the wake up time. You've built the schedule. You have your wake up. You have your what time you need to leave. Write those all down. Step number 5, print them out and make multiple copies. And if you're like me, laminate them.
You and your laminating, man. That's hilarious.
I love it. The laminating machine is just the greatest invention ever. It just reminded me of like elementary school, when I was sitting there and my kids love laminating. They love watching it like melt the thing together, I put copies of both nighttime and morning schedules in their rooms, as well as the kitchen. And I said the reason we laminated them so they could mark off the boxes with like a dry erase marker. Yeah. Because when they're really little, they like to do that. They like to mark it and see that they finish the task. Right. It's kind of a sense of accomplishment. So that's kind of the steps, and I think it's important. I think it's not easy, but here are some tips. To kind of make sure that you have best success with that. Right. So have your children take part in the schedule. Yeah. Some ownership, they can see, they get to establish the times and they can see that, wow, I think that's going to take me longer, and my kids help me do that. And so I said, hey, well, how long does it take you to brush your teeth and brush your hair? And they're like, oh, that's quick, and well, then you're not brushing long enough. No, I didn't say that. I just thought of that one. But you need to be, and then another one, you need to be on the same page with your spouse. Yep. If you are not a schedule guy, and she is a schedule girl, right, or vice versa, it's going to be a little difficult. Yeah. We switch off taking our kids to school and we have a little bit different, it's not huge, but we have a little bit different schedule styles, sure. And so the kids adapt because it's funny because they're like, are you taking us or is mom? And I think they gauge then like how much time they have or like how strict it's going to be. Right. I didn't realize that.
Tricky.
Why are they always asking? They know. And I think you need to give them the warnings on the time and ask the questions instead of telling them. So, hey, what comes on? What do we do after breakfast? What comes on or what do we need to do at 7:20? That kind of thing. And at least in the beginning, you can point to the schedule, show the time. Right. They'll get it. Right. Most importantly, out of all this is to be consistent. Yes. Kids thrive on routine and consistency. They do well with that. Even if you're not somebody who likes it, do it for your kids. Sure. They like the routine. That's why they watch the same darn movies and the same stories and do everything over and over and over again.
And it's even more important to do this because the morning routine has to be the morning routine. I mean, really, the thing that they're going to do when they, like you said, you get to the school age, you have to be, you're in a regiment at that point. Right. I mean, even in school itself, like you go here at this time and then you go to this thing.
Yeah. And it's a hard transition at kindergarten. Where's my shoes? And my daughter's breaking down and like you realize they've never done this before. Right. Yeah. And they're learning, here's the thing, parents too, with empathy, or I should say you need to have some empathy. I don't think I had enough in the beginning. I learned, and after a while, is to have some empathy, especially with the kindergartner. Like, this is their first time being on a schedule. For us, it's so, I mean, not for everybody, but it's fairly easy.
Sure.
Like, to understand it. Oh, I got to do this, so I got to do this.
We have years of practice.
You have years of practice, and for a little young kid, it's pretty overwhelming.
They went from I do what I want when I feel like it.
We don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, why am I doing this?
Right. to really having that, oh gosh, I only have this much time to do that. And not even, I mean, so many of them at that age don't even yet have a concept of time. Like, they really don't know what 30 minutes is.
Right.
They don't know what a half hour or, what an hour is or 2 hours.
And even if they do know, like we were talking about this before, their perspective is like, an hour is like a percentage of their life they can actually see almost, versus us. It's like a small fraction. For them, it's like a big deal.
They live in the moment.
Yeah. And then they don't know that conceptually what's really going on. Like, why does an hour make a difference? And how much time is an hour? And then how much can I do within that hour? And then they think things last forever. Like, you ever have your dog like freak out and when you come home, but you leave for like 5 minutes and come back and the dog does the same exact thing. Right. They have no concept of what that is. And I'm not comparing children to dogs, but it's kind of the same type of thing. It's like totally the time frame is completely foreign to them. Yeah, so just we need to have a little bit of empathy with them. So one of the things that was interesting, it was just kind of another caveat too, is I personally, recognized that I was really pushing them consistently about the time. In other words, hey, it's 7:20. Hey, it's 7:20. Like, all the time. Yeah. And it wasn't working. In other words, I didn't feel like it was getting any better. So it was like, and it's causing stress for me, like I was running out the door. Come on, we're going to be late. It was all that stuff. So I've recently, I've recently consciously made the effort to just be quiet and not bug them. Because they've been doing this now for a while. Right. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, wait, they actually have to learn this themselves. Right. And me yelling or just talking or whispering doesn't help them learn it. It doesn't help them get the accountability and doesn't help them like understand exactly what needs to be done, because they're relying on me. Yeah, it goes back to an earlier episode where we were talking about let them make the mistake, and like if they missed the bus or whatever. I got one for you. Yeah, there we go. All right, good segue. Yeah. Well, I was saying, it only caused stress for me, so I've made the effort to be more silent and not say, hey, this is this, and I've done that now recently. And it's interesting how much better that's worked. Yeah. Like, they got into the car. I slapped high fives. I was like, guys, I didn't say one word, and they were ready to go. Good. It was like, that's awesome. Oh, this was my fault. Yeah. Like, really, it was my fault. I've been bugging them and pushing them. It's like, all I had to do is just be quiet. Yeah. Like, they know what to do. Yeah. Yeah. So... Yeah, it was very, very interesting. That's cool. So I did want to tell you a story, and I was trying to remember where the story, it was very clear because I remember somebody was telling me, I think it might have been in the meetup group. Yeah. Where the child was a little older. I believe they were in middle school, so they were just like preteen, teen. And they were consistently late for school. So the mom, who was going to drive her, this teen, or let's call her preteen, and her younger sister to school. She talked it over with her husband, and they conjured up this thing that they knew what they were going to do together. So the husband was going to be home the next morning for at least quite a bit. Like I don't think he worked at home, but he wasn't in a hurry to get to work or whatever. Right. But they agreed and said, if she's not ready for school tomorrow, and we're going to like say, hey, we've said it many times, but like, we're going to leave without you. They're going to drive off without her, and be prepared of what happens, and how that will, like, they planned it all out. Yeah. So basically she wasn't ready. Mom drove away. Yeah. With the younger sister. She went nuts. Like, just
pleaded, was begging her dad, started crying, like traumatic, for whatever. She was going to miss a test. Like, I don't even know what the end, whatever it was. Totally traumatic. And he was like, hey, sorry, I've got other things I got to do. I've got to take care of it. He knew what was going on. He was just like, hey, sorry. Because normally if you didn't plan that, the dad would be,
all right, let me take you to work.
Well, or something, or they'd argue, whatever. Right. So he made her sweat it out for like a couple of hours. Like literally, it was like late morning or whatever. Because the mom didn't come back, and she was like, I can't believe. He's like, well, you're gonna have to miss school, And it was just like so traumatic. I think he eventually then took her to school. She never missed a day again. Like, never missed that car again.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so, I'm not to the point of that yet because my kids are still pretty young. I think you got to kind of be careful with that one.
Sure.
This was a little bit older of a child, but But now, I mean, they're old enough to now know and do that. And so, we've had a lot less problems as a result of me backing off. Mm-hmm. That's really, that really was what it was. And found myself then not getting as stressful. I'm like, okay, all right. If they're not like thinking to myself, like, okay, if they're not ready, I'm going anyways, even though I don't have anywhere to go. I'm going to their school.
I'm leaving somewhere.
I'm self-employed.
I'm
just going to go somewhere. But it's kind of funny. It's awesome. But so I mean, the bottom line on this is, as the nighttime routine we talked about, you just have to do what works for your family. Be consistent. What else I can do is I'll put my my schedule that I had up for download on the show on the show notes.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So I'll do that, and people can
they can download it and laminate it.
Exactly.
Make a PDF. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I will. No, I will do it a Word doc so they can modify it.
Right. There you go.
They can modify it if they want. But if anyone has any input or thoughts or comments or praises or questions or anything.
Soliloquy, whatever you like.
What should they do, Alan?
Email us, podcast@dudestodads.com. Also, hit us up on our social media channels. Twitter, we're at Dudes to Dads. Facebook, dudestodads.com. There's also Dad University on there. And then YouTube is a bunch of videos that relate to Dad University and Dudes to Dads as well. A lot of great stuff up there. And please, if you don't do any of those things, at the very least, go to iTunes and or Stitcher and or Google Play. Leave a review, subscribe to those channels, and give us a thumbs up or what else is on there, as it really helps perpetuate our show.
If I recall correctly, when we were doing the nighttime show, you had talked about the fact that you don't have a routine.
Yeah.
So how do you not have a morning routine? You don't do the same things at the same time?
I do, but I guess it's, I guess
you don't consider it a routine?
I don't consider it a routine because I don't have like breakfast at this time or this.
Oh, you don't?
I don't even eat breakfast in the morning, except on Saturday or Sunday. But like for the most part during the week, I don't have breakfast. And so I wake up, I maybe sit on the couch for a little bit. I might, if there's something I have to do on my computer, I'll do that. If not, I might, watch a program or listen to something on.
So you don't have a routine?
No routine at all. And except I leave at a certain time, go to work, then my routine starts.
So you just know, okay, I need to leave by X time, whatever happens before then, or maybe it takes me. So you might take a shower first.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, or you're say, you know what, I'll just take a shower right before I leave.
It depends on how early I wake. If I wake up earlier than my alarm and I'm just up, I will just kind of sit there, decompress, maybe think about things a little bit, maybe work on some projects that I was trying to do on my own. And then I'll get in the shower and then head out. Yeah. This is why.
Mine is the exact opposite.
I know. And this is why this show is going to be beautiful, because when I start having kids, I have to develop certain habits because I'm being preemptively warned by the 152 episodes of that we've been doing. I mean, that certain things are going to, I don't care if I'm this way, the children have to be this way. And, or, it just makes more sense what you're saying to me. Me just going, whatever, lackadaisical. The world doesn't work that way. So I have to.
Well, it does. I mean, you can if the rest of the, if you're okay with it and the rest of the world is around you is okay. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't
become king.
But if you work for yourself, I mean, like even for me, I even work for myself. I don't have to be there at that time.
But again, going back, not to belabor this point, but going back to, hey, especially the morning one. That's why I like the morning thing even more so, because you got to get to school at some point.
Right.
The school's not going to start whenever I get up or whenever I feel like moving around. So you have to be somewhere by a certain time. The evening thing can be a little bit more lax in some contexts, but I do like having that routine because then you want, even though it ran over, you have that time period to say, all right, 8 o'clock, the kids are asleep. Now I can kind of decompress, figure out something.
Yeah, I don't have a night. I would say I actually don't have a nighttime routine because my nights differ all the time.
Right.
I mean, we were here at night.
Here. Exactly. Yeah.
The kids do.
Yes.
We have one for the kids, but my morning routine is so specific.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like a shorter time period, but very regimented. And I think that's what the key ingredient. Well, that's why I asked you earlier in the beginning, which one was harder in your eyes, and you said the nighttime one because the lack.
No, the morning is.
Oh, the morning is.
The morning is, as it relates to the children, the morning routine is more difficult because
there's a specific time
you have to be there.
But for you, it was.
No, I think the morning was harder.
Gotcha.
Before I sort of realized it was my problem.
Right.
The nighttime is, like I said, the nighttime is difficult because you're stressed. Or or from the day, and it's just, I shouldn't say stressed. You're tired,
sure,
and you just maybe want to get to your stuff. But I found that the morning routine for me was more stressful.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Cool. They each have their own nuances. But,
yeah, for sure.
Okay, I was just interested in that. Anyways, with that, Alan, thank you as always.
Thank you,
and we will see you next time.
See you next time.